Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 4, and this is going to be my review for Episode 7, otherwise entitled, Therefore I Am.
This guy, he feels more dangerous than all the others combined.
You don't believe me. Guys, I'm telling you, he's not what he seems.
He's been watching us for weeks.
They just filed a complaint, said you harassed them.
This guy wants us to think he's unassuming, but he's not.
Listen to yourself, Barry.
I don't understand why you don't see what's going on.
Calm down. Don't want you to do anything else you'll regret.
You broke into our home! Please, we are getting married in a week, Barry.
I'll be thinking of you.
So obviously before we get into the rest of the videos, there will be spoilers, so if you've not seen the episode, go watch it, because a lot happens in this episode in regards to DeVoe's backstory, and, you know, us getting a hint at what he might be playing at going ahead in this season. So yeah, go watch go watch that episode, might I say, before you continue on with the rest of this video. Now, last episode was its sort of own contained episode with another, like, metahuman or bus metahuman case with Mina Chayton, who does get a name drop in this episode, but we'll talk about her later on and all of that later on. But towards the end of that episode, we do find, we get the Council of Wells revealing to our team that, hey, it's Clifford DeVoe. We go to Clifford DeVoe's house thinking, okay, this looks a bit normal, but there must be something sinister going on within it. And they answer the door, and it's the mechanic looking pretty normal, like a housewife. And then we see Clifford DeVoe not looking like the Thinker at all, rocking up in a wheelchair. And we're just like, okay, what's going on here? And that is essentially where this episode kicks off, and we find out that Clifford DeVoe is actually a professor or like a lecturer at Central City University, and the mechanic is actually his wife. It's not like some random assistant, and not like, you know, pretending to be his wife like we might have thought at the end of last episode. It's actually his wife. I think her name was Marlize. I think that's what her name was. And we find out pretty early into this episode like what the Thinker was playing at, or what Clifford DeVoe was going for, as he wants a way to portray his thoughts. He's very smart, but his mind is too small to convey those thoughts, so he wants to expand his mind. So he gets the mechanic, or his wife, to actually build him the thinking cap, which is from the comics. When the Thinker, or Clifford DeVoe, was in the comics when he first came in, he actually wore the thinking cap, and that was like his go-to thing. Like, that was how he used his powers. So his wife is like, got like a degree in engineering and like, I think in mechanics or like robotics or something like that. So she's obviously the go-to person to devise this thinking cap. Now, when we see Barry and Joe actually talking to Clifford DeVoe, which is basically continuing on from the end of last episode. So when they're in that house, they just walked in after the end of last episode. For people that were wondering how that all connected and how they got there, it's just continuing on from the end of last episode. But we find out that Mina Chayton, the metahuman from last episode, the one that could control like inanimate objects, was actually a colleague of Clifford DeVoe's, and we found out last episode that she, you know, was in that field and then sort of went off the rails, if that's the best way to put it, when she got all like into what she was doing last episode and like standing up and stuff like that. So she was a colleague of DeVoe's, and it's actually smart by Clifford DeVoe to do that, because he could have just denied that she knew him. Knew her, might I say, and just continued on like, oh, I don't know him, I don't know her, I don't know him, and stuff like that. But he admitted that he knew one of these metahumans, to sort of maybe throw Team Flash, or at least Joe, off the scent that he was this evil mastermind. We did have like little hints to the samurai and stuff, with the fact that like DeVoe loves samurais and like Japanese culture. They lived in Japan for a while, so obviously it would inspire him to make this samurai figure that we saw back in episode 1. And even when Barry actually goes to steal like one of DeVoe's mugs to get some DNA, we find out that DeVoe is actually just a normal guy. He has normal DNA. There's nothing really suspect going on about him. And Barry is the only one that thinks there's something up with DeVoe. And Barry even drops a Spidey sense little thing as well. So that's like, what, twice in 3 episodes, in 3 weeks, might I say, that we've had a Marvel reference. We had the Incredible Hulk reference, and then we had the Spidey sense for Spider-Man, obviously. But one of my favourite parts of the episode was actually when we had the flashbacks to Season 1 with the particle accelerator, when we saw Eobard, or the Eobard Thawne pretending to be Harrison Wells, you know, doing his speech at Star Labs. And the thing is, as soon as he found out that like Marlize DeVoe was married to Clifford DeVoe, his attention went straight to Clifford DeVoe. And some of you guys might have overlooked it and thought, okay, maybe just Harrison Wells is familiar with Clifford DeVoe because he's a professor. No, that's reverse Flash talking. That's reverse Flash knowing who DeVoe is. 110%. He knows who DeVoe is and knows that he's a villain from the past. So I love that just little sprinkling of knowledge there, which I thought was awesome. It might have been overlooked. Maybe I'm overthinking it, the thinker. I don't know, but I just thought that was awesome. But we do see DeVoe use that thinking cap, and he does get hit with the dark matter and then get struck by the lightning. So technically, DeVoe is a metahuman. We do find out at the end of the episode that his power is his intellect, so like the dark matter doesn't like convey itself that well. I'm not too sure. It's a bit confusing to me. I wasn't really following that well, to be completely honest, because it was a bit too scientific for me, if that makes sense. There were a lot of like throwbacks to season 1 in this episode, which I love because season 1's just awesome. Like even with Barry using the cork board in his like CSI lab, where he usually have the evidence for his mother's murder, like his dad being accused of it, and him trying to figure out who actually killed her. He replaced it with DeVoe stuff and placed a timeline of what DeVoe was doing at certain points to just pinpoint where he was at certain times to try and pin him being the thinker and being this person behind all of these things going on in Central City, recently. But we actually do find out in this episode what's going on with DeVoe, which I loved. I love the fact that they gave us this in episode 7, so it just lets us explain stuff as we go further on in the season. But we find out DeVoe is declining due to what happened. He had the thinking cap. It's made him extremely smart, like he knows everything, but his mind is slowly drawing away energy from the rest of his body. So his mind is getting more powerful, he's getting more smarter, he's thinking more, if you want to say that, but it's just ruining the rest of his body. So it's like a parasite. I think that's what they say in the episode. It's like a parasite leeching off the rest of his body, which explains like he's slowly deteriorating in his muscles and the rest of his body. So, he's slowly dying. That's the best way to put it. And if you have been watching like over the off season and stuff like that, and even like the beginning of this season, that's exactly what I said was happening. Because a lot of people are asking, okay, the Thinker in the comics isn't in a wheelchair and stuff like that. And as soon as I heard like a description for the character, like he was like ailing, which means like you're slowly deteriorating, I was like, well, it's probably his mind. It's probably his mind that's slowly like deteriorating the rest of his body. And that's exactly what happened. So we got it right. Now, Barry was hit with that good old restraining order in this episode after he broke into the DeVoe's household. And even as the Flash, he did get caught on security camera. So, unlucky Barry. Barry was pretty unlucky this episode because no one was believing him about his thoughts on DeVoe, and then he gets caught on security camera. So, yeah, unlucky Barry this episode. But as soon as you learn like what's happening to DeVoe, it doesn't really take a genius or a Clifford DeVoe intelligence to figure out what that chair is that we've been seeing for the opening couple of episodes is doing. It's slowing his decline. So, yeah, it makes sense. But the thing that isn't revealed in this episode, which I'm assuming they'll reveal as we go further into the season, because they didn't want to reveal too much in this episode, but I think he's going to need the Flash. He's going to need the Flash to help himself, whether it be going back in time, maybe going forward in time, just something with the Flash, and that's why those metahuman bus was created and stuff like that. He needs the Flash in more ways than one. So I'm interested to see how he does that and whether Barry obeys that. But yeah, I like what they're doing here. Like, he's not necessarily evil. He just needs something from the Flash, and that's why he's doing what he is doing. Like, he was just a normal dude who wanted to enhance his intelligence and, possibly help the world. But, he hasn't just been that as lucky when it comes to actually doing that properly. So I'm interested to see how he manages to convince the Flash to possibly help him. But in the mid-season finale after the crossover, hopefully we get some little footsteps towards figuring that out. Now, DeVoe actually just reveals it all to Barry. He just puts it out on the table like, hey, Barry, I know you're the Flash. There's no secret there. I was the one that did the metahuman bus. I'm the one, obviously, that got you out of this, helped get you out of the Speed Force and stuff like that. And the Samurai, it's all me. Just putting all your cards on the table right there, DeVoe. And it does just show that DeVoe's really not that scared of Barry. Like, he's really not scared. In his opinion, he probably has nothing to lose just because of what's happening to him. So everything that happens from now on is probably a plus in regards to fixing himself. So, yeah, I think DeVoe's definitely thought out this situation and what's going to be happening in the near future, might I say. And it just really matters how Barry handles it, because Barry can't just outrun this villain. He has to outthink. And when you're versing one of the smartest man alive, yeah, it's not going to be that easy, is it? But we do end this episode off with Wally coming back. I was sort of surprised he came back at the end of this episode, because I know he's in the crossover next week for the first part of it at least. But yeah, I was a bit like, oh, okay, Wally's back, bit random, but yeah. But then we end the episode off with a bit of a cliffhanger when we see DeVoe scalping himself, just ripping off his hair, brain exposed, and that helmet and that chair coming in, just plugging into him and him becoming the Thinker, which I wasn't expecting that, like for him to be scalped, a bit weird. But like I must say that DeVoe is becoming a more interesting villain as we go further and further along. Sometimes with these shows, the villain is very interesting when you first meet them, but as the season goes on, they become less and less interesting. But I think DeVoe's the opposite. I think it's going to get more and more interesting as we move further into this season. And I am enjoying what's going on. I think the acting from Neil Sandilands, who plays DeVoe, the Thinker, is pretty good. I think he's playing the character very well. But overall, I thought this was a really, like, it wasn't like an action-packed episode. That's the thing. It was a really good episode, but it wasn't action-packed. It was very story-based. It was setting up a lot of stuff going forward in the season, as well as explaining some stuff in regards to how DeVoe became DeVoe. And it also made us feel for the character, because he's not an evil dude. He's just a dude that wanted to help himself, I guess, but also help, you know, education. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to, you know, empower his mind and expand his mind to convey information, or more information, might I say. So you do feel sorry for him. Like, he's a human. He's not like an evil dude like we had with Thawne, Zoom, and even Savitar. Like, he's not pure evil. So they've got a very interesting villain on their hands, and like villain, I guess, but antagonist on their hands this season. And yeah, I like when they do that with a villain, or like the antagonizing force. Make you feel for them and make you connect with them in some way. And they're doing that pretty well. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on the video to show your support for the Flash videos, obviously. Let me know in the comments section down below what was your favorite part of the episode. What didn't you like? As I said, it wasn't too action-packed, but it was a really, really good episode in regards to just pushing the story forward, as well as setting up next week with the wedding and stuff like that, which was that like minor like side story, if you want to call it that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.